We're going to continue on with the Darkness series. Today is episode 5. Today's grouping, another tier 2 grouping. These people fall under the plain ass criminals major subcategory, and within that category, there's a group called the Immorals or Immoral. Let me show you a picture, since I haven't developed my graphics and I'm not doing a proper podcast yet or anything like that, but this is it. And I don't even know if you can see it, but this is the hierarchy chart. And as you see, here's the tier 3 at the bottom. We've already discussed all these folks, the trolls and the addicts, etc. This weekend, we did these guys, which are the community criminals. Today we're going to discuss immoral criminals. Their immorality is the gateway to the crime. At least that's the way I've categorized it. There's 100 ways to do this, so if you don't agree with my structure, that's okay. I'm just trying to demonstrate that we need to take an internal point of view and evaluate our behavior, because we can do better. I'm tired of people always being at each other's throats. Crime is up. You can see it all over the globe. I've already spoken on this a million times, but that's why I'm doing this. Let's see if we can get back to trying to influence each other to do good as opposed to evil or bad, right? And one little side note here, you can't see it, but here is kind of your progression through the tiers. You start with escalation to the second tier. As you increase the severity of your crimes, you start to climb the ladder. And then, of course, you end up at the top because the impact, right? The higher you up in the hierarchy, tier 1, you're going to see how impactful those people are to people's lives. We're not there yet, but we're going to get there. To remind you, tier 2 characteristics are legitimized and non-legitimized entities with an evil bent. So these people are, for whatever reason, programmed themselves or have been programmed to be evil or a criminal, however you want to look at it. They're organized typically. It could be individuals, but as you see that as we climb the ladder, you'll see people tend to get more organized. Again, it's severity and then the impact. So an individual won't have as much impact as a gang. That's just one example. However, there are certain individuals that have huge impacts on a lot of people, and they're tier 2. Tier 1. We're not going to talk about them just yet. They do evil in the face of good, in the face of God, in the face of the universe. Possibly they are victims of a system or circumstance. Frequently we see that if people don't get a proper education, they tend to do other stuff. And frequently that includes crime. So when you have huge masses of uneducated people concentrated in one location, you can only expect that there's going to be some debauchery. So anyway, that's what I'm talking about there. The Immorals. I'm going to talk about these folks, but I don't think some of these things should be illegal. And matter of fact, some of the categories are not illegal activity, but again, it leads to more severe behavior. Starting at the bottom, pornography. So there you go. That's not necessarily legal, but it does lead to higher tier crime. And in what form? Human trafficking. That is a form of slavery, a form of involuntary servitude that nobody wants to be in. You have people who are simulating criminal acts, rape, in those instances, in some of those movies or videos or whatever it is, pictures. And of course that influences whoever's watching it. If you see it and it looks as if the person is consenting to the violence, or that the person committing the violence is just domineering the other person. That's not a good message to send. And I know that that sounds old-timey to speak about pornography that way, but the proof and the evidence is out there that says that pornography is unhealthy. It's unhealthy for us in just a multitude of ways. It's unhealthy for us, but not just that. It does plant those seeds to commit different types of crime, but also the people depicted in some of those videos are not there by choice. And that's where the criminality comes in. Moving up the scale to gambling. So I think gambling is illegal in your house because Uncle Sam wants his cut. He wants the taxes. I'm not judging people. These are gateways to worse crime, because if you have a gambling place and you're floating money to people, now you're a loan shark. And what happens when those people don't pay you back? They get their legs broken and they break a thumb, the typical mafia stereotype nonsense. It's a stereotype for a reason, because if you borrow from a loan shark and you don't pay him, you might get your legs broken or worse. It could lead to, that's assault, right? Assault, the assaultist is higher up in tier 2. However, some of those people are willing to kill you over their money, and that's a tier 1 criminal. So you're influencing people by not paying your illegal loan and getting yourself hurt or murdered. And I'm not making that up. You can look it up. That stuff happens. So gambling. So we listed pornography and gambling. The next one on here is prostitution. Again, that one's linked to pornography, because you have some people who aren't doing it voluntarily. They are chained up or locked in a room, and somebody is selling their body on their behalf, and they don't want to be doing that stuff. They're getting drugged. I understand there are some components of prostitution where it's completely voluntary. It's just people. It could be a man or woman. I'm not going to differentiate, because there's all kinds of different types of prostitution. But for the people who are not there voluntarily, it has to be a living hell. And if somebody's doing that to a person, then really that person is an object to the criminal who's leveraging whatever power over that prostitute, the person that's getting pimped out. And they're threatening them at all times with assault, death. Again, we climb the ladder of the tier of darkness from this position. So although prostitution is sometimes voluntary, for the involuntary people, they can be murdered, injured, I'm sure they're hurt, right? They're involuntary having sex. I'm sure they're in some sort of physical pain. But beyond that, once they're not serviceable, they run away, they're gonna snitch, blah 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 blah. They get killed, and it's not good. It's sad, but that creates a tier 1 murderer, right? Because murder is like one of the extreme crimes. Moving on to pimps, and so pimps, again, you have a voluntary component of this type of crime. Just because pimping and prostitution is illegal doesn't mean that I agree that it should be. I think it would be healthy for our society. I could give you a million reasons why, but if a person wants to make money using their body as a commodity to make the money and be able to pay bills, I think that's up to the person. You can have sex for free. Why can't you make money at it? I understand that people will say, well, we don't want that kind of riffraff in our neighborhood and stuff. Well, okay, have zones. I mean, we do it with strip clubs. We do it with liquor stores. We do it with marijuana shops. You have restrictions on everything. You have regulation. And beyond that, you could maybe tax people. You have to register your business. You have to register your pimp business, and you have to provide W-2s. I don't know how you would do that. I don't know how you would regulate it. But that's beyond me. Again, pimps. And I'm not talking about the pimps who have voluntary girls or men or whatever it is. I'm talking about the pimps who are forcibly taking people and prostituting them out, especially those folks, even if it's voluntary and the person is underage, that's a crime. And it should be. That right there should be a crime, because what happens is that person's life is destroyed. I'm sure there's some coming back. There's redemption for everybody. But if you're a prostitute at the age of 12, 13, 14, like, look it up. This stuff exists. I'm saying it because I've read it or seen it somewhere in the news. It's catastrophic to that individual. If they're being pimped out and having sex, I assume they're not in school, or other things are going on in their lives that is just adding to the trauma that kid is experiencing, because, well, they're being sold as a sex slave. And again, that's tragic. And those types of criminals, that type of pimping, those are tier 1 folks. Because if you're enslaving a person, if you're capturing a person and putting in a room that's kidnapping, and you're making them simply serve whatever clientele involuntarily, you've destroyed that person's life. They're literally a slave. They're just a sex slave. And so those criminals end up in tier 1. Of course, we haven't got there. And why they're tier 1? Look at the impact. You're taking away somebody's life without killing them. The trauma, the road to redemption is long, etc., etc. And you could say, well, I had a friend and she just quit, or he just quit, and they got a regular job the other day. Most people can't do that. I would challenge you on that. Most people cannot do that. That ends the immoral list. That's the group. That was quick and dirty today. I don't necessarily agree, again, that some of these things should be crime, like gambling. You got Las Vegas, it's highly regulated. Who cares? Let people, I guess, gamble in the living room. I know that the law is designed to ensure that there are no illegal gambling operations, but guess what? You still have illegal gambling operations, so just legalize it. Just open the doors. I understand that certain communities don't want that. Again, just regulate it, vote it in. Prostitution, same thing. You have, I don't know if it's anywhere else than Nevada in the United States permits legal prostitution, but I don't see why that's a problem. It's happening anyway. You can go downtown to any major city in the United States and you can see the girls. How do you know who they are? Well, they're dressed in lingerie in the middle of the intersection in a seedy part of town. Well, you know what's going on. And I'm sure you could find a male, you could find whatever your flavor there. And I'm not laughing, it's just, that's just how I cope, man, because I think that's tragic. If people are doing that involuntarily, or they've been left with no other choice than to compromise their integrity of their body in order to make money to survive, that's really sad. Now, for the people who do it voluntarily and we do you, that's why I think it should be legalized. But anyway, it's not happening. So the immoral, align your compass. I know that I've been going hard on the criminals, and I'll tone it down a bit because I'm trying to make an appeal to them. I'm trying to get them to not do a thing. And I'm nobody. I'm not God. I'm just laying it out there and just trying to demonstrate how you go from trolling to other malevolent type of behavior. It just escalates, right? That's why we begin with the escalation. And then the severity increases, and then of course the impact to the victims is much, much greater the higher up on the scale of darkness you go. And again, if you're doing crime and you think it should be legal if you're a pimp, vote. I don't know about pimps voting, but if they have the right to vote, why not? Why don't you run for Congress or the Senate or something? And obviously, if you're a pimp, you got the gift of gab. You can influence people, and maybe you need to influence them to stop being so restrictive with silly laws. It's always a moral argument based on our Christian values And I'm not saying that sarcastically. That's what it is. But you know, it's telling. It's so hypocritical because you have, you know, a mass of homeless people in any downtown. You've got all the crime there. You have, you know, open drug markets. Cops are being forced to look the other way. It's time to fix that stuff. Shouldn't remain that way. And I think the people who are committing the crime, who are victims themselves, they have a perspective to provide us. And if they can right their ship, if you can right your ship and start leading a more positively impactful life, not negatively impactful, we all stand to benefit, including you. Again, that's a picture of some sort of utopia, but I think that's what we should be working toward collectively as people. I think the vast majority of us believe in some sort of God, some sort of entity who's out there, who, when we pass away, will pass judgment on us. And I think there's lots of room for forgiveness. There's lots of room for redemption. But if you can perform those acts here while you're alive, and the longer you can do it, if you're 30, if you're 40, if you're 50, it is never too late to reform yourself. And you can have a future. We abandon people. We lock them up for decades for the silliest of stuff. Again, we have ridiculous laws in the book. But, you know, our lazy politicians can't, you know, secure the border. They can't fix a homeless problem, regardless of how many tens of billions of dollars you throw at them. So why not fix the law? It's time. But we can help by modifying our behavior, treating our brothers and sisters better, and in doing so, create a better world. Have a good day.